Are you there, God? It's me, Martin.
Hello and welcome to the EuroWhat, episode 250, dropping on January 7th, 2025. We are a pair of Americans trying to make sense of the Eurovision Song Contest. I'm Ben Smith, and I'm here with my co-host, Mike McComb. Hey, Mike.
Hey, Ben.
In this episode, we'll be talking about the results for the 2024 edition of the ESC 250 Countdown and Albania's Festivali I Këngës. 250, Mike.
Woo!
Woo! I know that we titled the last episode Pew Pew Pew, but also Pew Pew Pew.
Yes. And also that we're now in 2025. It's just 2s and 5s and 0s all over the place. So.
Yes. Branding. We love it. That's a handy segue because since we last really checked in with contest news, branding has happened. Now that we've taken away the ability to change the slogan for each year, it's getting weird. It just sort of, there's now both a visual identity and an audio identity.
Yeah, I wasn't really tracking the audio identity piece of it, but you're right, because there was like the whole, like, I think last year's audio identity was Northern Lights, and it was like really closely tied in with the visual identity, which I think was also called Northern Lights, but... Yeah.
Like they had highlighted the audio side of it less last year, and it was just sort of like a fun tequila sunrise color set.
Yes. And like bars kind of moving like wave tones a little bit. Again, they weren't really pushing it last year, but this year they are calling it out a little bit more specifically.
The visual identity is pulling from the idea of Swiss direct democracy and the idea of listening, which there's just like a pointedness to the tone where I'm just like, okay, so like 2 months from now, we're going to be getting we're listening to you from the EBU, sort of drowning out the sounds of actual feedback.
It is that sort of end of the year performance evaluation. How did your year go type stuff? So yeah, that didn't even occur to me until you just brought it up. So.
Well, and just like the definition of we're choosing to interpret United by Music as unity shapes love, which feels like when I first read that, I'm like, okay, that feels something straight out of like George Orwell's 1984 of just like unity shapes love. I appreciate what they're going for with it.
Yes, it feels like something that you would see on like the table next to the checkout line at a bookstore, and like those little $15 booklets of motivational phrases.
Yeah. It is a phrase that sort of like has a shape and is 3 words, but also somehow means nothing at all. After last year, I'm wondering how long United by Music sticks around. But for now, it's here, and if we listen to one another, we find love. That is what is being told to me by the press release. And the press release wouldn't lie. They're doing some interesting stuff with the Eurovision Heart this year. Like, I have appreciated how different the color scheme and sort of visual side of things feels from last year.
Yes. Yeah. Like, I mean, it is very distinct from what was happening in 2024, which is great. I think that is something that is pretty consistent year to year, like each host country putting their stamp on what the visual is going to look like. And I agree. I think it's sort of dot matrixy, which I think is a fun choice.
Yeah, there's something that feels almost like textual about it that, again, is really resonating with me going to the press release, which will not lie to us. It is pure of heart. This message will also be conveyed visually through the iconic Eurovision heart symbol, which stands for dialogue, unity, and the unifying power of music. The pulsating Eurovision hearts have therefore become a core element of the design, representing the millions of people unified by the Eurovision Song Contest to listen and celebrate together. It feels like a lot of structural integrity to put on the heart, but go for it.
Yeah, and it's also taking me back to our last episode where could you imagine trying to do that with the Lips logo? Not to beat that horse, but I think overall the visual graphical presentation is going to be really interesting. In terms of the audio identity, again, I was not really picking up on that piece of it, but it does seem like it is going to be a little bit more central to the overall presentation. This is also coming from the press release. Based on a powerful beat sprinkled with some traditional elements of Swiss music, yodeling, the distinctive sound of a Basel drum corps, and the unmistakable music of the Hochbrett and Alphorns.
The Hochbrett, which if you showed me a picture of, I would definitely identify as a Hochbrett.
I'm kind of excited about the yodeling.
Yeah, like, I admittedly, I think that's what was playing behind all of the visual, the release of the visuals. I feel like you needed to tell me that it was sort of inspired by yodeling for me to hear the yodeling in it. But yeah, I'm interested to see what they're doing with this.
Thinking of it in terms of like traditional yodeling and not like the generally accepted or expected version of yodeling. I'm thinking specifically of that one game from The Price is Right.
Ricola ads.
Romania's 2017 entry, although that didn't really have that much yodeling in it.
Just like, what is actual yodeling versus the lonely goat herd?
Closing out the press release, they said that we've created a bold, high-energy track which will prepare the audience for an unforgettable experience with its pumping beats and surprising musical effects. So it really seems like Heartbeat is the heartbeat of this design concept. Intrigued by the stage. It has kind of this sort of photo box setup.
There's like a frame in the middle of the arena.
Yeah. I mean, like you have the main stage and then there's a catwalk area and then like a smaller front stage. So kind of a T shape. Pretty familiar. I feel like the Liverpool stage has kind of a similar design to it. It's the box part of it that, I don't know, like if you're seeing it live, how that is going to be part of the show, if it's something that you're going to be able to see through, or if it's going to end up being an obstacle for people watching it live. But
that was what really stuck out to me as somebody who has been in that audience. Like, what does this mean for a person on the floor of the arena?
Although it looks like there was a ton of floor space alongside the stage. For the people buying, I'm guessing that's the OGAE section of the audience. But yeah, that should be a fun place to watch the show from.
I love reading creative notes about like where someone started from, because apparently this is also partially inspired by pulling from the fact that there are 4 official languages of Switzerland. I don't entirely understand the mental process of how you go from that as a design concept to picture frame.
Like the 4 sides, and I think that they said that they were going to try to like weave in the languages, and I'm sure it's something you kind of have to see it in action. Like still photos aren't really going to describe it. You need that like the visual movement and the animation and whatever else they're planning for like the actual final presentation of it. But yeah, the still shots are encouraging.
Mm-hmm. I'm ready to see it in action. And then finally, we have an official font this year, Eurotime. That's like the one part of the visual identity that's not quite gelling for me yet, just because they're mixing Eurotime, which has serifs, with just a bunch of non-serifed fonts, which you can do, but like I feel like it should just be like the bold italic for like the country name, and then just keep using that. You made a font, use it.
It's so weird to be so nitpicky about this sort of thing, but this is what we do.
I mean, the other thing that I thought of is like, it kind of reminds me of the stuff from the 1990 contest. So that's a fun nod to Croatia.
Interesting. Yeah. Like to me, I think it kind of looks like it would be the font used for the cover of the like 1975 edition of Are You There, God? It's Me, Martin. So they had the presentation of the design elements like as a YouTube live presentation. And I was watching it on the way to work. Again, technology, awesome. And yeah, like when the font came up, I was just like, I don't know what I think about that. And like switched over to Blue Sky, and that seemed to be, at least for the people that I was following, the one sticking point for people. It's just like, wow, I am following the right crowd if we are all talking about fonts. You know?
These are my people.
I'm trying to withhold like final judgment on it until we start seeing it actually being used on materials. Like it's been used very minimally at this point. It's like, I'm not sure how I feel about it.
The main place I've been seeing it is now that we have a couple entries, it's showing up as the country name on the videos, but they're only using it for the country name. I'm like, no, you made a font. Play around with it. Use it for everything.
I think that is maybe what's missing. Like there just hasn't been enough playing around with it yet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, as they have done so much of this other visual identity branding that feels very separate from last year. And I just really want them to continue to lean into that because it's cool.
Along with that presentation, they released some information about the tickets. This year, they are introducing pre-registration for tickets. Pre-registration is open until January 10th. We will have a link to where you can pre-register in the show notes. And you need to pre-register even if you are planning on waiting for later waves of tickets. The tickets are scheduled to go on sale on January 29th. This would be the day after the semifinal allocation. So if you are a participating country, you can see which semifinal your country is in before deciding to make any purchases. Along with filling out the pre-registration form, you do need to create an account on the Ticket Corner website. The whole process takes less than 5 minutes, and I was able to do it with U.S. address and all of that stuff. So, there should not be too much trouble, but yeah, just make sure you get that done before the end of this week. You have homework class. So.
Yes. Yeah. You have one action item on this episode of the EuroWhat, and it's pre-register if you're thinking about going.
If you're concerned about prices, you should be. They're projecting tickets to be between 40 and 350 Swiss francs, which comes to about $45 to $400 US. Again, that's going to depend on like which shows you go to, where you're sitting, that sort of thing. So if you were like right up against the stage for the grand final, that's going to be closer to the 400 range. If you're in the nosebleeds during the family show, that's probably going to be 45. But it's hopefully going to be less Hunger Games-y with this new process, but we'll find out on January 29th.
Honestly, I have had more stressful ticket buying situations in my life than trying to get Liverpool tickets, but like it's close. It was close.
I'm hopeful with this pre-registration process that it doesn't require getting up at 3 a.m, whichever time zone you're in. I mean, that could affect US, that could affect Australia, probably wouldn't affect Europe, but it'd be really funny if it did.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, hopefully there's just like a little bit more order to how that works, but we'll see. We'll see how Ticket Corner goes.
Yeah. It's not Ticketmaster, so there's that. In terms of hotels, if you're starting to plan your travel, the Hotel Association of Switzerland is trying to prevent price gouging. There was an article on Baz Online that talked about how the Hotel Association is trying to encourage their membership to not raise prices by more than double what the normal going rate is for a hotel room. I don't know how comforting that is.
Yeah.
But,
hey guys, could you not do more than 2 times?
They're expecting more rooms to be made available in January, probably after tickets go on sale. And that's going to be another thing. Like people who aren't able to get tickets or their plans have changed since the host city was announced way back when. You will hopefully be able to find accommodation after the tickets. That is the next step in the process, and I am not looking forward to it.
Yeah, it's just maybe wait until after tickets happen to see if a bunch of Swiss Airbnbs mysteriously flood the market.
Yeah, so that is what's happened on the organizational front.
We've had some selections since we last chatted in December. Albania, of course, had Festivali Ikengis. I had like the heats on in the background and then watched in full on the Sunday of the final. And like, that was a great show.
This was a fantastic contest. I think a big part of it was El Haidadani, who represented Albania in 2015. She was the artistic director for the contest. And much like with Vladana in Montenegro, let's have more alumni run these shows. So far, they are 2 for 2 in producing fantastic programs.
That was a great lineup of artists and performers and just the show as a whole.
There were 30 songs that competed, and I'm looking over my notes from just the semifinals, and it's like, oh, I'm like saying like really positive things about all of these, and like I could tell that I was really engaged. It was not just like background noise. This is a step up for Albania, and like I don't know if there was something about like they've upgraded their equipment as well. Like it just seemed like it was a much crisper looking production.
The one thing that is just part of Festivali Ikengis is just because of how the broadcaster works is like when they go to commercial, you have full time to like prepare like a new snack for yourself.
I was able to get a couple of crossword puzzles done during one of the commercial breaks.
It's lovely. They are like scientifically engineered to be just long enough that like I was checking every time. Okay, did YouTube mysteriously like short out? Like, have I lost connection? But no, it was no. And then like immediately the show would start up again.
It felt like it was a really tight show. Like there was not a lot of like kind of faffing about. And I like the fact that they kept the final to 15 songs. They could have had up to 18 songs, but no, like they were very decisive. And I thought it was a very strong final field.
As we were starting to get the scores from the judges, okay, there's like maybe 2 or 3 ways this is going to go, but all of them felt very good.
I was not certain who was going to win. I mean, there was the favorite of Elvana and Carnival, which is like, okay, that seems like a crowd favorite entry. You have Shkodra Elektronika with Zjerm, which that was my favorite, and that was the one that won. So.
I had come into this one seeing, okay, we got Elvana is back, Justice for Maitana. That was a very well performed song. That was a very well thought out performance. But like, as soon as Shkodra Elektronike came on, I'm like, no, this is a vibe. There are lots of nations that could do a carnival. Like, if Maitana was sort of riffing on Fuego, this was very much riffing on Chanel.
Yeah, I see that.
Which, again, wonderfully performed. I think Maitana is a little bit stronger of the two performances I've seen from her, but very solidly done. If she keeps sending stuff like this, she will eventually represent them. Not every nation can send something like Zjerm.
Exactly. Yeah. And like that was where I was like kind of concerned. It was just like, okay, this is something that I really love, but you can never tell what's going to happen with the Albanian jury. But then the fact that they were like pretty much across the board, like between those two entries, it was like, oh, this is unusual for Albania. Okay. And also like just given how strong the overall field was, I thought the points were going to be a little bit more spread out, but it was just a 2-horse race.
The jury seemed very united. Like just looking at the awards, Zjerm got the Critics Award, and then the jury, it was their top pick.
This year, they also included 2 different televotes. There was the local SMS vote, and then a Albanian diaspora vote, which was basically a rest of the world vote, at least as far as I could tell on Blue Sky. It was like, I don't think you're part of the Albanian diaspora, but you said you voted.
Yeah, like that seemed like the Euro fan vote.
Yeah. And you can kind of tell in the results how that played out. Like the local vote was very much behind Zjerm, but the rest of the world vote was very much behind Carnival. And I think a lot of that is the like Justice for Maitana piece of it. Not to take away from it being a very good performance, but yeah, like it's like, there's a thumb on the scale here, but it may not necessarily be of Albanian heritage.
Oh, only 6 songs got points from the diaspora votes.
Which was so crazy, because another thing that they were doing was, like, this was proportional voting. They did not do the thing where they, like, took the jury votes and then turned it into 12, 10, 8. They kept all the raw points there. And then the 2 televotes were proportional. The jury was 50%, and then each of the 2 televotes were 25%. You would think with proportion, there would be some that would get, like, 1 point, and then it would build up from that. Of the 15 songs, only 6 got points from the diaspora vote. Only 9 got points from the regular televote. So it's like, oh, okay, wow. All right. Like, this is very decisive.
Yes. Albania tends to just be sort of like a nice little intro to the season. It doesn't, like, I can't use it to read what the season's going to be like a whole, but like, I'm so excited about this one.
Yeah, I don't know if I've ever been this excited for an Albanian entry like this, especially this early on, because there's always like that fear of, oh, are they going to revamp this? Like, what, like, are they going to do what they did to Basel last year? Like, that is where my fear is, but I don't think that's going to happen with this entry. Like, I don't think it would work.
I was briefly concerned just because the video that's on the official YouTube channel is like 3.5 minutes, but the song there is like 3:10 in its live version, and it's like 3:03 on the recorded version. It's like, okay, cool. They have very little paring away to do at what makes this song work for me.
I think if they're considering any sort of revamping or retouching, I'd kind of like them to maybe redo it with the orchestra from FIK. The version that's currently on Spotify, the studio release of it, it feels a little plasticky, and I liked the live instrumentation behind it. I loved what the backing singer was doing in like the sort of call and response part at the beginning of the song. And yeah, if they can kind of work those elements into a revamp, I think that would be fantastic.
Yeah, it's like splash out for some real strings on this one. But yeah, if it's fine for it to be like 3:03, just like there's going to be a song that's like 2:56, just it all evens out in the wash. Just like let them have let them have these 3 extra seconds. I feel like they have so much stuff they could do with the staging. Like, I had a vision today while listening to it, while walking around running errands, of I want them to do that thing that ABBA always did, where the one singer is facing the camera and the other singer is like at like, you see their profile during the spoken word portion. Just like guy talking direct at camera. She's in profile. Lean into the Eurythmicsness of this.
Yeah, Eurythmics or the Sugar Cubes. Like, I was getting big Sugar Cubes vibes from it. And I think also, like, once they have the playground of the new stage, that's going to work really well, because there weren't a lot of like video displays available on the FIK stage, and I think they may be able to use that to their advantage for whatever the final performance looks like.
No, I feel like they have some real fun space to play with the staging of this one, and I hope they take advantage of that.
And they just seem like such a fun duo.
They defined their genre as post-immigrant pop, and I love that.
I loved seeing that. That is also giving me the confidence that they are not going to revamp this or translate it into English.
Yeah, it's like we don't have to worry about a basis situation here. It's like, they started the project in 2019, and they've done stuff like perform at the opening of the Albania Kosovo Pavilion at the 2019 Venice Biennial. They know exactly what they're doing as artists.
Excellent. Yeah, really, like, of the people on the jury, like Jonida Maliki, who represented Albania in 2019, I was most interested in how she voted, because it's like, I trust her judgment, and she gave this one 12 points. It's like, all right, she's on board. If she could be part of like the consultation of this act going forward, that would be ideal, I think.
Yeah, it is far too early for any of us to be saying things like Tirana 2026, but I would not mind. If this is the year for what Albania is putting down, I'd at least like it to get to like the same heights as like Seuss did.
Yes. This is a great way to kick off 2025. I'm like just so excited about this one.
This is hitting so many of the things I love about Eurovision at once, so I'm just so excited to see what they do with this one going forward.
Good job, Albania.
Yeah.
So in terms of artist news, the Netherlands announced who their act is going to be in Basel, and it is Claude. He is Congolese and moved to the Netherlands at age 13. He's a performer who has won the 3FM award for Best Newcomer, and he participated in Beste Zangers 2024. I know that means best singers, but for some reason that keeps registering in my mind as like best zingers. And it's like, oh, is this like one of those like Dean Martin roasts? He's quick with a quip. His debut album released in 2024. He co-wrote all the songs, and like looking at some of his numbers on Spotify, he's got some traction. So
yes.
Incredibly photogenic. Like every photo that I've seen of him, he's just like popping off of the page. So in the press release for the announcement,
I think this was a Votros. Just saying, this year as a selection committee, we have chosen a meaningful, connecting, and hit-sensitive song with international appeal that can effortlessly conquer the hearts of young and old Eurovision viewers. I mean, yes, that's generally the goal for a Eurovision song.
Yeah, why would the press release lie? So, but yeah, like I'm caught up on the phrase hit sensitive, and it's like, okay, that just seems very like business jargon. So.
Yeah. But no, like I'm intrigued by this. I think it, like on the surface, given that I haven't heard the song, this feels like a good pick for the Netherlands.
I feel like Netherlands has established itself as having a very strong track record when it comes to their internal selections. I mean, they've been doing well since 2013, so why change the formula?
All right, and then sort of looking at other news that has happened since we last looked at this, Ukraine really values the openness and transparency in their process, so we know a lot of things about what that looks like. The publicly selected jury consists of Jamala, Sergei Tansinets, who was on the jury last year, and Katarina Pavlenko from Goa.
Yay!
Yeah, love to see her in the mix. Love her taste level. Wildcard voting is happening next week. Teslenko was one of the acts that would be part of that, but they have withdrawn and are on the audition list for San Marino. It's just sort of the constant threat that no, they've decided to try San Marino. Yeah,
I mean, it's interesting that they made that choice before the wild card happened, but maybe that was just a timing thing. I forgot to double check like when their San Marino audition was scheduled, so maybe there was a scheduling conflict with that. But it's an interesting way to hedge your bets, I guess. But and speaking of San Marino, Una Voce per San Marino is no more. At least that name is no more. It has now been renamed the San Marino Song Contest. But they do have a fun font choice in the graphics that I've seen. It has kind of like a beach blanket bingo, like kind of 1960s Riviera vibe to it. At least the San Marino part.
Yeah, the San Marino portion has like a neat shape.
Yes. The song contest is kind of like your basic like Futura font, but they've got time to finalize that logo. But the final for that has moved to March 8th. So it is going to be in the big leagues with Melfest and Festival de Canção to close out selection season. I haven't seen anything in terms of like if the format is changing or if this is just like renaming the contest. But
I think I had seen somewhere that they may not be doing the portion of just like inviting the big names, and then there's also these people that auditioned. I think they may be just sort of leaning on the auditions.
Okay, yeah, and I think that may have happened before the name change. I don't know. It seems like there's a lot of behind the scenes stuff happening, and we'll probably get more information. I'm guessing a month from now. San Marino keeping us on our toes.
Ireland has announced the details for Eurosong that will be held on the Late Late Show on February 7th. I don't love the Late Show, but you know what is an existing thing, and if that putting it within the constraints of that existing thing allows them to find more stuff like Bambi Thug, I am all for it.
Yeah, I'm withholding all judgment until we get more details.
Until we get like some song announcements.
Yeah, song announcements. If they're going to have the like in-studio jury and like the people from 30 years ago who do not engage with current Eurovision. Like, I guess what I'm saying is please let Jedward be the artistic
Just put
director.
Jedward in charge. Just
the alumni
Jedward.
know what they're doing.
Yeah. They are the voice of sanity in that room, which is terrifying.
Look at what you were making us say, Ireland.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, just put like Jedward and Bambi Thug just on like the artistic director portion of things.
Oh man, that's going to be a lot of look.
Yeah. Like, you know what? Ireland could use an excess of look. Checking with Song of Captain, my hunch was correct on some of the stuff around this year's process. There is going to be no super final. The winner is going to be determined by in this case, televoting and international jury. The international jury bit is new. They're sort of trying that out. And then the other thing that will be new is that there are just going to be 3 songs qualifying from each semifinal rather than doing that sort of weird wildcard process, where it was generally whichever of the things that placed third that had more votes made it to the final. So I like both of those things. They have announced that Thomas Benstem and Selma Bjornsdottir will be the artistic directors. Selma is, of course, the person who represented them in 1999, one of the times they got second. Thomas Benstem is a dancer choreographer for Melfest, and his show reel has so many performances. Like, oh, that's him.
Yeah, he's done a lot of work with Carola, so he knows his way around the Eurovision stage.
He has been in the trenches of putting together entries, so like I look forward to seeing what he brings to Song of the Captain.
Yep. We should be getting the songs and the acts on January 17th, so that's coming up pretty quick. Also happening that weekend, Moldova will be holding their auditions on January 18th. That is always an exciting, weird day.
Guess what, Mystery Hunt team? We're watching some Moldovan people.
Yeah.
I will not be missing this.
I mean, it is good, interesting background visuals most of the time. So, so it'll be their audition process. A number of acts could be chosen from that for a final that is currently scheduled for February 22nd. We will see what happens. There could be another like 2022 situation where they're just like, nope, it's that one, and just choose from there. But yes, the first big step of the process will be January 18th. And we have just about everything for selection season on our Google Calendar, which you can find on our website at EuroWhat.com. I think Armenia is the only thing we are waiting on to actually get on to the calendar. So you can add this to your own calendar. We will have links to where you can stream the various programs, various other supplemental programs. So things like the semifinal allocation draw, other artist announcements. Really, if there's any streaming opportunities available, we will try to get that on there. So be sure to check that out.
Okay, so given that it is our 250, let's check in with the ESC 250.
Yes, I love that the timing worked out this year.
Thank you, universe.
Yes, I didn't manipulate the calendar in any way to make that happen. But
it's just like us 3 months ago. Hey, if we schedule it this way.
Mm-hmm. So the ESC 250 is the annual countdown that's held on New Year's Eve day. That is a fan vote that is facilitated by songfestival.be. Everybody can submit their top 10 Eurovision songs of all time. They tabulate the scores and play on internet radio the top 250 songs from that vote. Ben, how did your ballot go?
I mean, I got 10 for 10, but I had a very low risk portfolio this year. Looking at what I picked, a lot of stuff that I know has appeared within the 250 the last few years. There, the only time I was stressed was as we were getting towards the end, was I correct in thinking that Zari was going to be popular, or was that just a me thing this year? Because I played Marina Sati's EP a lot, but that might have just been a me thing.
That is one of the fun things about this process, where it's just oh, I really liked this song, but I don't know if other people like it. It's still shocking to me how high Hatun Munsigra ranks.
Yeah, it's still in the top 25.
Yeah, it was just oh, I know that we were very big on that song, but it is so unusual for Eurovision, we'll say. Mm-hmm. And the fact that it's oh no, this really does resonate with people. I need to internalize that is, it's a lot of fun. But then you also get a lot of the classic entries. So I'm just seeing oh yeah, this song from before I was listening to Eurovision stuff. It's oh no, this one really does hold up and stand the test of time, which is what I love about the process. Yeah, my ballot, I don't think it was particularly risky. I only got 8 out of 10. The 2 that I missed were Zoe's 2016 entry, Loin de Si, and Tichin's Ding a Dong. I don't know, we were talking about how we put our ballots together, and I had it narrowed down to 150 some entries for a first pass. And it's how do I get this down to 10? And I actually ended up writing out a whole bunch of what my process was. So I did save the top spot for my number 1 pick, which is Incorpore Sano. But then for the other 9 ones, it's okay, I need to set up some guidelines here. I got down to 152 by going through the entire spreadsheet of songs that have been part of the Eurovision Song Contest, all 1,700 or so. And then doing a gut check of being okay, this one, yes or no, filtering that list down, then taking out ones that have iconic status, so have already been in the countdown 10 or more times. It's they don't need my help, so get rid of those. Then removing songs that ranked higher than Waterloo in 2023, because I always kind of treat that as the point in the countdown where the heavy hitters are, and then limiting it to 1 song per country. And then this is where it starts getting weird. I decided to kind of set up this sort of Fibonacci sequence where I wasn't going to include any songs from 2024. These should be ones that stand the test of time, so have at least a year out. And then to also combat the recency bias, just 1 song from 2023, and then 1 song from 2022. And then I could have up to 2 songs from 2021, and then 3, and then 5, and then 8. And then pretty much anything before 2017 would be fair game. Even with all of these ridiculous rules, it only brought me down to, I think, 25 or 26 entries. Okay. So I ended up using the sorting grid that we use and had a little mini Eurovision Tournament of Champions or whatever. Eventually got down to 10. And really, my whole goal was to try to boost some of the songs that have 9 appearances on the countdown to try to get them to that 10th spot, which is how Ding a Dong ended up on that list. But I originally wanted that to be much, much higher so that it would get more than 1 point from 1 person. So yeah, not as vibes based, and way
by comparison, my process is just so much more vibes based, which is what songs do I want in my heart of hearts to vote for? Okay, put those on the list. Scroll through my general Spotify listening process, to the consternation of the people at Spotify who want me to listen to their playlists, is I will make 1 playlist for a year, port over a bunch of stuff from the previous year, and then just sort of chuck stuff on the pile and just sort of listen to it on shuffle. What that means is that the last few years I've had a bunch of stuff that I picked up from previous ESC 250s where I'm oh, this is fun, Antiques, Die For You, things like that. So when I was making my list, scrolling through, I'm okay, what pops up on this playlist that when it comes up, I always have time for? So through that process, got to probably 25, 30 things, and then did what you did, which is I popped it into the prioritization grid thing and just sort of let them duke it out. And then once it gave me that, I took a look at the top 10, was okay, what feels correct to me? What do I want to shuffle around? I posted the second revision of that, because the first revision I got to it and I was patting myself on the back because look at me. I have a list There is entirely non-English entries. Great work, self. And then, like, as I was entering it into the website, I was like, wait a minute. Rim Tim Toggy Dim is in English. And then it's just like, well, as long as this one's here, let's just throw Ioane in the mix again, too. Much like you always had Constracta at your 12 points, Cario was going to be my 12 points just because I would like to fight the constancy of Euphoria at number 1. And that seems to be the best way to do it right now.
I guess we could get into the actual results of the countdown. So Euphoria by Loreen has regained the top spot. This is win number 11 for her 2012 entry, and ended up finishing with 12,336 points, receiving almost 412s from the full electorate. Coming in second is her 2023 entry, Tattoo, with 11,421 points, so close to 1,000 points behind. Cha-Cha-Cha finished in third, also about 1,000 points behind Euphoria. That was what won last year's countdown. Slow-Mo by Chanel, which won the 2022 countdown, was in fourth. She had the most 12s in the lineup, which I thought was interesting, 410. And Europapa by Joost Klein was the top 2024 entry and finished in fifth place, but was almost 4,000 points behind Euphoria. So not that close, all things considered. So
yeah.
Looking at sort of the overall stats of the countdown, there were 49 countries that were represented. Sweden had the most entries in the countdown with 16. Italy had 14, and Norway and Spain each had 11. There were 46 years from the contest that were represented. As is usually the case, the most recent contest had the most. 2024 had 29 songs on the countdown. 2023 had 21. And 2021 was in third with 18 entries. Dansevice, Denmark, 1963, was the oldest entry on the list and was one of 34 contest winners that has been on the countdown. For the 2024 contest in particular, two that were in the grand final that were not in the countdown were Germany's Always on the Run. That finished in 387th place. And Latvia's Hollow was in 286th place.
Speaking to the ones that showed up in the top 10 from this year's entries, Europop, of course, in 5th, Rim Tim Taggy Dim right below it in 6th, The Code right below that in 7th. That's always like an interesting referendum on the year's Eurovision results. It's like, okay, the People's Champion, once again, topping over the jury vote. And then Zari was in 9th. Again, like that was the one on my list where like, okay, was my enjoyment of this number a me thing or an everyone thing? And thankfully it was an everyone thing.
Like when you get into the top 20, you do try to game out like which 20 are they going to be and what order are they going to be in?
Oh, yeah, no, I was doing a ton of strategy of like, okay, Kari and Joost Klein were both weird little dudes. They might have canceled one another's votes out. Loreen's two entries are going to cancel one another out. Therefore, Chanel is going to win. And then the second that happens, Chanel, the slow-mo starts playing. Like, okay, never mind.
Yeah. Well, like I was starting to think that it's like, oh, wait, we haven't heard Doomsday Blue yet. Oh, could this be a true dark horse? And then song number 11 played. It was Doomsday Blue. Honestly, feels kind of low. Like if that and Zari had swapped places, I would not have been surprised.
Yeah.
What I was surprised by is this 11th place ranking is the highest rank ever for an Irish entry in the 250 countdown. So again, Ireland, please consult Bambi Thug and or Jedward and or recent alumni on how to do your selection, because these are the sort of results that you can get on a regular basis. So
yeah, it's just like there is not going to be a writing campaign for Millennium of Love.
No. I didn't even check to see where that finished in the countdown. I will do that on my own time. Yeah. To kind of round out with my own like sort of crazy wall of statistics, the iconic status that we give songs that appear 10 or more times on the countdown. This year, there were 4 entries that have had a long time to get to 10 appearances. We had Glorious, Germany's 2013 entry. Congratulations. Ianixi from Greece, 1991. It Hurts, Sweden's 2004 entry, and Silent Storm, Norway's 2014 entry. Did not join the class of 2014 last year. It somehow missed the countdown in 2015, and just like, oh, that's surprising since I know that that one is a sentimental favorite of folks, but it is there now. So congratulations to those four. And then the class of 2015, this is the first year that they would have the opportunity to have 10 appearances on the countdown. And all 9 songs that had a perfect streak going into the countdown got their 10th appearance. So that includes songs like Heroes and Grand Amore, Love Injected. 2015, very strong year for entries. And then we have a whole bunch of songs that have 9 appearances on the countdown. That's includes the class of 2016. So next year will be the first year that they have the chance to join iconic status. 6 songs there. J'ai Cherché, If Love Was a Crime, Love Wave, You Are the Only One, Sound of Silence, and 1944. And then there were a few other new cuspies to join the list. Manamu from Cyprus, 1997. Shake It, Greece's 2004 entry, which was an unexpected appearance this year. And one more appearance and it will be iconic. And then Bulgaria's 2007 entry, Water. There are 22 cuspies in total, and perhaps next year I will get my stuff together so that I can actually be helpful to get that one instead of giving 1 point to one song that nobody seems to want to vote for.
Which is wrong. Ding a Dong rocks.
It's such a good song. And yeah, like I just need to be a little bit more organized. If we could get like the fandom from Spain or Serbia or some of the other countries that seem to be very organized in their ESC 250 voting to get behind these entries that are neither Spanish or Serbian. Let's see if we can make some magic happen. But
the way that I did my voting, like I was trying to have like a couple more representational votes, like something from like old Eurovision of the stuff I love. Like that's how I ended up with Anne-Marie David's Tu te reconnaîtras. Because like that one just has like the big 70s orchestral stuff that I love, and this feels like a good example of that. And then like shifted my Yugoslavia vote this year to Tai Chi just because that song also rocks. We love when that song comes up on the countdown. Blue Sky was popping off. We were all eating our chocolate.
It's always a fun way to spend New Year's Eve day. So looking ahead to this coming week, Estonia's voting for their Wildcard will have closed by the time you've heard this. And we should have a result that is expected to drop on Monday. We are recording this on Sunday, so we cannot see into the future, unfortunately. But yeah, that will be the 16th finalist for next month's Eesti Laul.
Yeah, Finland's process kicks off. We will have the artist reveal on Wednesday. They're broadcasting that on TV for the first time. That's fun. It's also going to be available on streaming through Arena. And then we will get a new song dropping at midnight EET each weekday through the end of next week. Once we know those artists, we will get their songs fairly quickly after that, and then we can do all of the mindless speculation.
Yay! Croatia will also be dropping their songs this week. There are 28 songs that will be competing in Dora, and those are expected to be available on Thursday.
Yeah, and then Lithuania is kicking off Eurovizija.lt. We have 45 songs competing over 5 heats. The top 2 each week will advance to the final. The show will stream on LRT's website and YouTube. I'm looking forward to that. I'm also just still missing the Pobando Mishnyayo of getting to see songs evolve and adapt and see how things look on TV. But let's see what this year's crop holds.
Some of the songs from Lithuania's process have started dribbling onto streaming platforms. I think there are like 9 available at the moment. I don't know if those are the ones that are competing this coming week. We should get the list of competitors either Tuesday or Wednesday. If they're doing the same sort of production process, they film the performances in the middle of the week and then the show airs on Saturday. So it'll be a good time. I hope you've enjoyed your free weekends because that time is over until March. So
yep. All right, and that's going to do it for this episode of the EuroWhat. Thanks for listening. The EuroWhat podcast is hosted by Ben Smith, that's me, and Mike McComb.
That's me. You can find our full archive of episodes on our website at EuroWhat.com. If you like even more content, join our Patreon. Along with financially supporting the show, you'll get bonus episodes like our favorite pop culture items from 2024. You can get to the Patreon through our website or by going to patreon.com/EuroWhat.
Next time on the EuroWhat, we get ready for another season of Lithuania's Eurovizija.lt. You have one action item on this episode of the EuroWhat, and it's pre-register if you're thinking about going.